everyone, this is Megan Charlin from Genesee Center for the Arts and Education, here with Geri McCormick, the owner of Virgin Wood Type. We are here to talk about her business and also have a tour of her studio space. This is our second Periscope chat, so thanks for joining us today on your lunch hour. Feel free to message in any questions that you have for us, and I'll read them off to Geri. And let's get started. Hi Geri, you want to give us a quick intro and tell us about what we're going to see today?
Yes, so this is the shop, and how Virgin Wood Type got started is we had a chance to buy the equipment. We have a pantograph and we have patterns. So the equipment and patterns are from American Wood Type Manufacturing Company from Long Island City, and they made wood type for 70 years. I think one of the great things that we have are these assets of patterns to make faces. So this one here is Stymie. And if you look around, you see white boxes all over the place. Those are all patterns. So now we're going to stop talking about that. We're going to walk over and we're going to look at, this is the big bad boy. This is the machine. So we lock a pattern in over here, and we have different size, what we call followers. Someone might call it a tracer. And then over here is a bit, and we put the wood type in. This is a letter that has to get 3 cuts. We're just going to do one quick little counter cut right now.
Cool, guys, you're getting a demo.
Yeah, I'm picking up, I'm doing a counter, so I'm picking up the bit so that we can get into the counter. We first cut away all the area that is not cutting the letter points. So we cut away all the waste, and right now I'm going to start cutting the letter. So this is Antique Extended. Very kind of a time-consuming, expensive font to make because it uses lots of wood and it's got lots of hand trimming. So, some of the things we do here is we process wood, which we make these things called blanks that make letters. And then when they're done getting made, we cut the letter off on a Hammond trim saw. I'm not going to show that because that's not. So now we're going to walk into the house because, this is where all the sawdusty mess goes. Oh, maybe you might want to just look. These are some of our offerings. This is Franklin Gothic, which we don't have yet up on the website. It's a new font we started making in April. It'll probably be up in June. This was the newest font before that, Inland. This is another new product that hasn't gone on the website. It's called an Interrobang.
And Geri's website is virginwoodtype.com. So the Virgin Wood Type studio is actually in Geri's garage, and the second part that we're going in right now is actually in her home.
So this is the second spot, my dining room table, and the work gets done. And what I do here is I have a very good working light, and I have a lot of tools that are files. So if sometimes there might be imperfections in a piece of wood type, mainly caused by imperfections in the wood, because wood is a living thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we go through every single piece of type gets a little filing. Like with this font, I'm just sort of trying to make the corners of the edges of the letters nice and crisp. So, if you want to look, here is a whole bunch of letters that have now gotten their finishing treatment and also the hand trim.
Oh yeah, those look perfect.
So now we're going to go in and we're going to see the next stage that happens to a letter that's getting made. And Jim Greishaber, one of our newest partners here at Virgin Wood Type, he's in here doing hand trimming. So we have a specially designed device for hand trimming that Scott Moore designed. And so Jim could show you. So where all the little points where the router tool doesn't go into is all cut by hand. And we either use a knife, or Jim maybe you could show one of the wedges you're using right now.
These are like wedge punch tools, steel punches. And if I gotta get up kind of close to this, so my head might be in the way, but what I'll do is, like, the bottom of this V is round. I'll take the punch, focus my eyes a little, and chop it out. And now it's pointy on the bottom. And I usually just pick out the little scraps. So yeah, like a lot of these, all these serifs are supposed to be sharp in the corners, but the router's round, so I gotta go in and sharpen up all those.
Yeah, when you think about letterpress printing, obviously, you're printing those by hand. It's a analog process. You don't really think of the kind of workmanship, the handmade quality of the type that you're actually using too.
Yep.
So on average, from start to finish, how long does it take to make just one?
Well, I'm not going to say that.
Lot?
We average between, I'm going to say 40 letters a day to 75 letters a day, depending on the font.
Okay.
Okay? That's how big it is, how much detail, how much hand trimming. And if you look over, like, towards the end of the area, all the fonts have a printout that we have. So it's the guide to know where you hand trim a letter, where all the trims need to be. So now I'm going to show you this. Is the last step that happens, well, besides packaging, but we don't need to show packaging, is that I have a Vandercook proof press, and so we put the type on the bed here and lock it up with a quick lockup bar, and we use carbon paper. So every letter is proofed at Virgin Wood Type, but it's never been inked. That's why we call it Virgin, because it's wood type that's new and not inked.
In what would be a bedroom in someone's house, you have a press. You have a press in your house. That is awesome.
Courtesy of Mitch Cohen from the center.
Oh,
he moved it
Mitch.
in. It had to be taken apart to get into my house.
No, that's great.
So, and as you can see, when you look around here, I also have, these are like, so these are the drawers of fonts that we make, mainly. So, that's not so much that. Let's see if I you can see they even use some, because I try to use all my type when I'm making promotional materials for Virgin Wood Type.
So how did this start? Like, how did you decide to make your own
started
type?
At the center. There's a lot of, it started with falling in love with the small collection of wood type that we had 10 years ago at the center.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a hell box down in the basement of wood type. And I brought it up with our first intern, and Margaret, and we sorted through this hell box, and we managed to get like 2 full fonts and some, maybe half fonts of some other fonts. And they were, there was quite a lot of letters of Aldine, and also Etna. And I fell in love with Etna. Etna was it's beautiful. And the font that we had at the center, I have friends that know so much about making wood type. So it was made by William Page somewhere between 1856 and 1859, which can be figured out because of the way the maker's mark looks on the letters.
Mm-hmm.
So fell in love, but there was, like I think in the Etna, the Etna has all the letters, but the Aldine had missing letters. So, Bill was like always reaching out to different letterpress printers, and there's this great letterpress printer, David Wolski, and so he was like saying, David, do you have a Q for Aldine and a P and a, because there's certain letters that always get destroyed in wood type collections because the old printers would take the Q's and make O's and take the R's and make P's.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
So there's really specific letters that seem to be missing. Sometimes they take the Z's and turn them into 2's when they need them. Things like that. So there's always, you could have any missing letter in a collection of them, but they seem to be certain ones that are really, Q's very common. So Bill wanted to try to figure out how to make replacement letters. And he started out with using photopolymer and sticking them to wood, and they're sitting still down in drawers down there. But
I'll have to look for them next time down there.
The glue has since released, and they're kind of curled up like photopolymer did. But then I saw on the letterpress listserv someone said, "Oh, there's a Craigslist listing that this guy's selling wood type making equipment, And so Bill sent the guy a proposal, and he said he got like 40 proposals, and he chose Bill. Not that it was free, we paid money for it.
Yeah.
But I think he felt Bill could do it. I think Bill had the combination of being very mechanical, but also the woodworking skills and also the typography skills. He was a graduate of RIT in printing, and specialized in typography when he was there, and he through our careers together in the graphic arts industry, Bill used Fontographer and made different custom fonts for specific projects out there for the commercial world. So we went and flew to where the stuff was and rented a truck and drove it back, and then it was starting to figure out how the machines work.
Yep, how to get to work.
And so then my husband ran the business for about 3 years, and then he got cancer and brain cancer. So then I helped him a little bit with a Virgin, but not, I was working full time as a designer. But when he got sick, he really wanted to train me to do it, and so now that's
took over.
what I do full time, is
That's
make
great.
wood type.
Who buys this? Like, what is, like, would someone like me that just that looks cool and I want that font?
Well, you could do that. I don't think too many people do that because it is expensive. Because we showed you how it's it's a time-consuming process to make letters. Our biggest market is the education market. We're selling to letterpress studios in colleges and universities, not only in America but in Canada and the UK. Sold a little bit to Australia, but not that much. But so that's our big market, and then we sell to individual letterpress printers also. So we have like one individual letterpress printer. She's amazing. Her name's Kiva Stimick. She's in Montreal. She's bought almost everything in the Virgin Wood Type collection.
Oh wow!
Right from the get-go.
Yeah.
So she's constantly printing posters because her and her husband have 3 different music venues. So she makes posters, usually letterpress, and so she's consuming lots of wood type products.
Yeah.
But we do have individuals, as I said, like Kiva, but she's our best single customer.
What so you have the proofing press here in your house. What do you it's a proofing press. So like if you want to do a larger printing project, I mean I've seen you around Genesee Center printing. How does that, what kind of work do you do at the center? Do you use your own fonts? Do you use what's at the center?
Depends on what I'm printing. When I print promotional materials, I use pretty much virgin wood type. I use metal type from the center because I don't really have any metal type. Mm-hmm. And then, but when I'm doing my own artistic work, I love working with the collection at the center, and I've been very involved from the moment I got involved with the center in building the wood type collection.
Yeah.
From getting donations to also most recently getting a donation to buy the Stan Harris collection, which I'm sure maybe people have been seeing my all my social media acquiring the Stan Harris collection for the center.
Yeah, so if you're not already, be sure to follow Geri on Instagram. Virgin Wood Type is their username, and she constantly is posting projects she's working on, but she's a huge supporter of Genesee Center, and you get to see kind of sneak peeks of that new collection that we acquired a few months ago. While we're on this tour, for those that are interested, you have the chance to actually come and check out Geri's studio as well during the Ways Goose that Genesee Center is hosting on June 4th. Do you want to talk about kind of your involvement with that and what people can expect coming here and seeing the space for themselves?
Well, they'll get a tour. It'll probably be a bit more in depth than I gave on the Periscope tour. People come and visit Virgin Wood Type all the time. Mm-hmm. I get people who are like in the area and they say, "Can we come?" And we love to show people what we do because nobody, when you tell them I have a pantograph router, they're like,
"Right, what is that?"
It's so different. It's a completely custom-made piece of machinery. And I always tell everybody that Upstate New York is this great letterpress trail because there's Western New York Book Art Center, there's the Genesee Center, which is an amazing collection. We have the Geri Library at RIT, which is an amazing research facility for anybody who's interested in printing or type design. And then there's the Wells Book Art Center in the Finger Lakes, and then there's Boxcar Press in Syracuse. So they're, those are quite, I think with Boxcar and us, we're kind of a bigger slice of people that supply to the letterpress community. There's other people also who, one of them will be attending the Ways Goose. John Barrett of Letterpress Things is, probably the best supplier of letterpress equipment to people in the Northeast. We're just trying to put on a great Ways Goose. If you don't know what a Ways Goose is, it's a traditional printer's dinner. And they had them at the end of the season as the light was getting shorter. I think they worked less because they didn't work as much by candlelight. So
this is going back to like medieval times,
right? So
like,
they're celebrating the shorter days.
Many years ago.
So and it would be something like the master printer would, host his journeymen and apprentices for a dinner. It has since become a way of printers getting together and celebrating and sharing and having fun. So, we've tried to put together a great program of what I think is fun, but also educational. We have some great speakers at the dinner. We have a wonderful workshop with Amos Kennedy. And then we have the Printers Fair itself, which you can come to if you're a printer or not a printer, because I think there will be people there selling prints and books. And there will also be people like me there selling equipment to letterpress people.
Right, so there'll be something for everyone.
Yes.
If you come to the Ways Goose on June 4th. For more information on the Ways Goose, you can go to rochesterarts.org. We have a full schedule of events for the day up, and there's a whole list of vendors. We have nearly 20 vendors this year coming. most of which I think everyone you just mentioned, Western New York, Wells College, they'll all be at the fair as vendors as well. Do you want to head back out to the studio, and you had pulled out some prints
Sure.
for us to see too? Hopefully I'm not making too many people dizzy with all this walking around.
You see, I did very brief because we still have lots of time.
Yep.
So here are, maybe I'll show virgin wood type. You can do this a little, you can get a better light on them. So these are pieces that have been produced as promotional pieces for virgin wood type. So they're all using wood type, except for the flower on this. This was done for the LA Printers Fair last fall, and so there was a design created by a friend of mine, Cindy Iverson, for the cover of their program, which had this artwork. So that artwork is photopolymer, but this is our wood type. And if you look over there, you can see the actual wood type. Put that next to it. So those are the letters, and then and I sent the wood type out to LA before I arrived, so they printed
Oh, great.
the programs, and then also they gave me a bunch of extra prints. And then here, when we had our first open house, which we gave tours and showed everybody what we were doing. I seem to, every time I have an open house, I cook chili, so I have chili, beer, and see how we make wood type. And so
Wood type beaver, I
this
love
is,
it.
well, that's, from here to here
Mm-hmm.
is virgin wood type. Down there is some of the wonderful stuff from the Genesee Center.
Genesee Center, yeah.
I just went, I gotta throw some of the really good fun stuff in there, just to liven the poster up. So I work at the center as a artist. What are we called?
They're studio artists there,
Studio
yeah.
artists, yeah. So if you look at this piece here, I have the word "yeah," and it's printed three different forms using.
Yeah, I love that. It's really playful.
All sorts of faces. Well, almost all my own faces, plus tons of stuff from the center. And then this is what is called a dirty catchword, which is a discontinued product at Virgin Wood Type. Sorry to say. So, and then this is the newest series I'm working on. I'm setting words in circles, and so this, pretty much all of the type is, almost all of these I've been putting one letter in the center. And the one letter in the center is from the Genesee Center.
Oh,
and then all
nice.
the type that goes around, I usually custom cut. But sometimes I don't, because I said I acquired all this equipment from American Wood Type, but I also acquired all of their standing stock.
Mm-hmm.
But the standing stock was weird. So, I have probably 12 X's of shadow. But I probably don't have any A's.
Right.
So it's a weird collection, but it sort of supports very easily these prints that I'm doing. So I come up with a word. This was Moxie, and then I look through what I have, and then I also look at my fonts and then cut letters to add to the, and I'm using a method that's, Jessica Spring has developed this Daredevil furniture, so I'm using Daredevil furniture, but also some techniques that she taught me when it comes to making Daredevil forms. So most of these circular forms I'm using adjustable pipe clamps, and then finding any kind of circle I can find for the center of the form
Mm-hmm.
that fits, and then just wedging all sorts of metal and wood in there to make sure everything locks up tight as it goes on a press.
And recently, I mean, within the last few weeks or so, I did see a photo on your Instagram account of the form set with the circle and looked like some sort of putty stuck in there or something.
Yes, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yes,
something keeps it all
it's
stuck
molding,
together.
It's molding clay I've been using. And, you know, I'm one of those people that I use all of the methods of learning stuff about letterpress. So how I learned about using the molding clay is there is this archaic thing called the letterpress listserv. There are some younger people on there, but a lot of the people on there are the old printers that have been doing letterpress printing all their lives, and they seem to know techniques. And so sometimes someone asks, well, how do I do this? And then, you know, all different people offer, well, I do it like this. And so another way to have done it is with plaster. But that just seemed so, you know, like, who wants to mix plaster up and put it on your form in a press?
Right.
Which would probably get pissed at me for having to put plaster on the press. So instead, but somebody else talked about the molding clay, and I thought, oh, that's like perfect. So I cut, like, mainly because the way these are, I usually cut like these little pie-shaped wedges that go in between all the letters in that circular pipe clamp and make it. But it's kind of fun when I post my forms because I get all sorts of other letterpress printers going, is that clay? You know,
yeah,
and stuff
what
like
is
that. So it's fun to, I love Instagram because it seems like the letterpress community has embraced it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun to go to conferences and then, you know, you meet somebody and you're like, you don't know that you know them because they tell you their real name and not their Instagram handle. And then they Instagram, oh, met Virgin Wood Type today, you know, and I'm like,
really?
So I try to find out everybody, but it's a great community, and I think that there's a lot of positive energy on Instagram in the letterpress community. We support each other well.
Yeah.
And that's part of what I feel the Ways Goose is about. Is I think it's part of us building community and reaching out to a wider audience than is just our audience of letterpress printers in Rochester, and trying to reach out to people in New York and further. And we do have vendors that are coming from further away than in New York State. So we've got somebody from New Hampshire and somebody from or John Barrett from Massachusetts. Ed from Swamp Press will not be here this year, so that's sad. But he's in Belgium.
Well, I guess we can forgive him, I guess.
But yeah, so, and if I could, you know, maybe I could talk a little bit. So these are a new product that we're making, and this is called an Interrobang, which is a questioning exclamation. Now I don't, let's see, I would have to dig these down, but I could do that. But so when we make a new pattern, we have,
So I was gonna say, I mean, you
we make
your own patterns too, which is, I mean, that's incredible.
Well, but I don't, so what, you know, they get drawn in Illustrator or Font Lab.
Okay.
And then, so here you can see, part of this project was a custom project, so we were making specific interrobangs for a customer. So I asked them to send the exclamation point and the question mark to a font, and then the interrobang was drawn to match it, and then we cut them. And that in cutting, so these would be considered just like making replacement letters, which is a very time-consuming thing on my machine. Usually when I set up a font, it takes me about a half an hour to turn over a font on a machine.
Okay.
When I'm making replacement letters, it's usually, you know, an hour and a half to 3 hours to get set up, because I'm adjusting to get the, you know, we had to match the exact, you know, way that question mark was sitting on the block, and then also match the weight of the character. So what I did was I really made the exclamation points, and I got them to match the existing font.
Okay.
And then the Interrobang will look like it belongs with the font, because it will have the right baseline and also the weight of the character.
Is that something that happens often, or something you're looking forward to maybe doing more, is collaborating with designers to make their own type?
Well,
or
I get, it's kind of touchy as far as I'm concerned, because I have things that I've had people contact me, but I really haven't made that many custom fonts for people.
Mhm.
I tend to generate the new products, and I'm happier with that, because there are things I know about the process. So I take that, I use the information I have about how hard it is to make something when I'm designing the patterns.
Mhm.
So, but you know, David Wolski drew the patterns for Aldine, and they're beautiful. They're perfect, you know. But Aldine is a very, you know, a font that doesn't have a lot of detail.
Yeah.
And so I'm very wary of very thin areas of wood, because I'm afraid of the wood not holding up.
Mhm.
So I tend to adjust things. Replacement letters, we do make them for people, but they are expensive, because it takes us a long time to get the machine set up. So it really ends up being better for someone if they need 5 or 7 or 8 replacement characters to one font than if they just need 1 or 2, because I have to charge them for that long setup time that it takes me to get the letter right.
Right.
But we will, when we're making those, we put them on the press and proof them. So, and I usually make it, and so when I make replacement characters, I have someone send me a character that is in the collection already, and then I make the pattern for that, and then the new letters. And so when I'm, you know, so you can proof it and make it match, you know, to the best we can,
Mhm.
and then away we go. And that's where the time is matching, getting the followers to, you know, the right follower, the right character weight. So it's a very nudgy thing, but we do it, and there's people willing to pay us. But it usually starts at $150.
Right.
It goes from there. So, and a lot of times people have paid $150 for their used wood type thing, so then they're like, oh, that's expensive. But again, it's time consuming. But that was the whole reason we started Virgin Wood Type, was to make replacement characters. But it's not our main business. Our
They've
main
kind of grown
business
from that.
is basically making type. We make other things, you know, we make you know, ornaments and all sorts of other products, like this is a new little product, but in general, we're in the business of making type. And you know, and it's kind of interesting, because Scott Moore of Moore Wood Type, he loves to make ornaments.
Mhm.
So, you know, I make some, but I just make some, you know, basically to have things to take that are what we would call it eye candy when I go to printers fairs. But, you know, we're basically in the business of making, and so we've sort of split our market. So Scott, you know, he's off making all sorts of very fascinating stuff, and is very good at what he does. Jim and I were just talking today, and I was saying, is he Virgin Wood Type's godfather? And he said, no, he's Virgin Wood Type's 5th Beatle. Because he has helped me so much since Bill has passed away, you have no clue. And I think that kind of camaraderie and friendship in the letterpress community is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
You know, as I pointed out when Jim was hand trimming, that machine, Scott designed that machine, and he had one, and he lent us his for a while because he does a lot of laser cutting and not so much, but he does do hand cutting.
Mm-hmm.
But he lent us the machine, and so we used his to make ours.
Right.
And so, how often do you have that? But he was just here in April, and my machine was down, and I didn't know what to do, and it went down the morning he was coming by to visit us. So that is like the wood type gods being with me.
Right.
And then, you know, we all had lunch together, and then we just came back and we took the machine all apart, and he had us, you know, he had me going and getting all sorts of little supplies and doing all sorts of stuff to the machine, and it has never cut so well as it's now cutting.
It's meant to be.
So Scott is, as I said, our godfather or our fifth Beatle, however you want to think of it.
Yeah. So I do want to take a moment. We have about 20 minutes left. Just to remind everyone, if you're using the Periscope app to view this, you can message in questions for Geri. And we've mentioned the Waze Goose a few times. That's June 4th. If you want more information about that, or checking out the schedule, seeing the list of vendors, just go to rochesterarts.org. So Geri, I wanted to follow up with a couple of points that you made. One was, you know, talking about someone spending, you know, $150 for type. What is, I mean, I guess the obvious question that I haven't asked yet is, like, why would someone use type over metal? Like, if someone's not familiar with letterpress, like, is it an aesthetic choice? Is it...
Well, the wood type is the bigger letters.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a letter this big, metal, is pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a whole form of it, it's really heavy. That's why there's these tables that roll around that are called turtles, and they use them in the newspaper industry because the newspaper pages were, you know, size this big. It's all metal,
huge.
really heavy. But in general, and even the newspapers, their headline type could often be, the really large headline type, be wood type. So, and that's why I think part of why wood type, the sizes in woodlet type are called 3-line, 4-line, 5-line, 6-line, 8-line, 10-line, and was a whole standard again in the newspaper industry.
Mm-hmm.
A line of type was 12 point, 1 pica, and everything was based on that in the newspaper industry. So, you know, it would mean a lot to them because, you know, they're setting up a grid and, oh, we want, you know, 4-line headlines here, or we want 8-line headlines here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of the standard, but also lots of people who are creating posters use wood type. And the biggest example of that is Hatch Show Print in Nashville. And they have that amazing collection of wood type that they've had from 1890 to, I don't know when they stopped buying wood
Wow,
type.
yeah.
But, you know, they probably bought it for a good 75 years at least. And, you know, the Hatch has a real look to their work, and that's part, you know, so if we look, I'm kind of upset that this guy's going down here. Let's see if I can move it out of the way. So, you know, here's a poster from Hatch Show. So you can see, you know, the look. So those cuts of the lions and the elephants, you know, are from when they used to make circus posters, you know, 75, 80 years ago.
Yeah.
And then also you can see that their wood type is well used and well worn,
Mm-hmm.
but they have an amazing collection of wood type at Hatch, like huge. It's just unfathomable how big it is. So that's, you know, those are, you know, we talk about who some of the, you know, the well-known users of wood type in the world of letterpress. So I brought up Hatch, which Hatch, you know, Jim Sheridan does these amazing prints. But Hatch is mainly about, and there's a lot of letterpress artists that work at Hatch, and they are mainly creating posters for the music industry. And they're usually not posters that are selling a show, but they're posters that the musicians sell as their swag to make money. And Hatch specializes in that, and they do amazing stuff. Here is another letterpress artist that everybody knows really well. This is Amos Paul Kennedy, who is coming to our Ways Goose, and he is extremely well known for using wood type.
Yep, and if you've ever stepped foot in Genesee Center, his posters are everywhere. They're a huge fan of Amos Kennedy at Genesee Center.
Well, and also, you know, Amos is so funny because when you talk to him about wood type, he's always like, if he was here, he would be saying, "You don't need this wood type. I'll just take this home with me." But so he uses a tremendous amount of wood type. I don't have any examples of his work, but there's another huge printer in the letterpress industry. His name is Alan Kitching. He's out of the UK. He's got a big show that's happening right now. He's everywhere this year. And he is going to be at the Ways Goose at Hamilton Wood Type Museum this year as their keynote speaker. Very excited to see and hear Alan Kitching.
Great, yeah. So, I mean, you run this successful, exciting woodcut, wood type business. Do you see this growing beyond, you know, your garage? Did you ever think this would expand into a larger kind of studio space, or are you happy kind of like with the size?
I've decided I'm not going to grow. The only way I've grown a little bit to try to expand my production is by hiring Jim.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have Jim who works for me part-time and Matt who works for me full-time, and I work more than full-time.
Yep.
So that's how I'm expanding my production. You know, it takes me a long time to get someone trained.
Right. No, I'm sure.
So Jim is picked up running the pantograph amazingly well, but he has also been a digital type designer for 15 years or more. So he really understands all the subtleties of type, and I've learned that helps.
Yeah.
And but no, I've decided I don't think the market is big enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm back ordered. I'm back ordered 3 to 4 months. I've
Wow.
been back ordered 3 to 4 months for a full year. But that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because before that, I had a dry spell where I had 3 months where I didn't sell a whole lot.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the world exploded for me last May, and I've just been making type as much as I can since then. But no, I'm not going to expand because I don't think it will become affordable, you know, because I don't pay rent here,
Right.
you know, and things like that. All that more stuff that adds to the overhead,
Yeah.
I think will make it not affordable.
No, I mean, I think it's great that you work here in your garage, and like I said, I love the fact that you've got that press in your house. It's just
Well, and you
so
know,
great.
you probably didn't show it, but there's like wood type everywhere in my house.
Yeah.
You go to the bathroom, there's boxes of wood type. You go, you know, anywhere, there's either boxes of, you know, wood type, or there's patterns, or there's bad letters sitting all over the counters in my house. It's just everywhere. Maybe here's a shot you could do. This is what I call my hell box. So those are all the letters that are bad. You know, there's something wrong with them. Let's see if I can pick up something and see. I don't know what's. Oh, this has there was nothing wrong with this letter, but there is a little crack
Mm-hmm.
in the wood that we didn't notice when we made the letter.
Yeah.
So it ended up in here.
See, look at that M.
That has a chipped corner. So, you know, things go in. I'm really happy with this current font we're making because so far, only 1 second. And that always makes me happy when we're making type and not making a lot of errors. So,
Yeah, that's great.
so that means Jim's getting good. Jim's really good at cutting type, and Matt's good, and I'm good and fast.
Yeah.
That's the 3 levels of wood type making at Virgin at the moment.
Awesome. Yeah, and Jim and Matt are also both studio artists at the center. Jim recently, actually probably a couple months ago now, but we had highlighted him on our Instagram account and showed a project he was working on with metal type. So going back to the Ways Goose and the tour here, what can people expect? I mean, you mentioned the chili, and how long of a tour would they be? How long would they be here for if they wanted to sign up on our website for that tour?
Well, I just have it's an hour long that we're going to be open. You know, a tour actually takes about 20 minutes.
Okay.
And we'll be set up. We'll probably Jim, Matt, and I will all be here, and we'll all be taking different stations throughout the process and showing and discussing.
Yeah. Great. So yeah, if you're interested in coming here for a tour, and I highly recommend it. I mean, you haven't even seen half of what's in here. You can go to rochesterarts.org and sign up for the tour, and come check out the Virgin Wood Type studio. We have about 10 minutes left. Is there anything else you wanted to share with us?
I'm going to talk about one more thing that is part of the Ways Goose, though it's on Friday. You know, most of the Ways Goose events are on Saturday, but there is a featured tour of what's called Flower City Paper Mill, which is right here in Rochester. I don't think there's too many cities that have a paper mill still in them. And Flower City Paper Mill, I think, has been in business for like 130 years.
That's incredible.
And Mitchell always describes going to the place as, you know, it's so old and just I don't know, it's a whole experience in itself. It's and so we have tours that you can sign up if you're going to be in town Friday afternoon. I think right now there's probably already 2 different tours set up, because I think they're doing 10 people at a time. But yeah, that's one of the other things. And then we have Patty Cost is one of the speakers at the Ways Goose dinner. And she wrote this amazing book about the Bentons, who, started American Type Founders Corporation. Benton designed the Franklin Gothic here that I now offer. So that is something we also try to do at Virgin Wood Type, is we try to offer, we have vintage fonts that we recreate and offer, but we also have a lot of amazing typefaces in our collection. Now, I don't know how original the Franklin Gothic is, or whether American Wood Type had permission from ATF to make Franklin Gothic, but the gill I have is completely from Stevenson Blake. And they're beautiful patterns. They're just, and gill is beautiful. And so I have the gill sans light, the medium, and the bold. So it's a full, authentic version of a typeface that I have the rights to produce. Because in the letterpress world, if you have the matrices, or like in wood type, with wood type, with matrices and metal patterns in wood type, if you own those patterns, you own the right to make the fonts.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
And American Wood Type was the American seller of Stevenson Blake, not only wood type but also metal. They sold Stevenson Blake foundry type at American Printing Supply. So that's how we ended up with gill, which is kind of thrilling.
Yeah, no, that is really exciting.
Yeah.
Her talk after the Ways Goose dinner on the June 4th, she's actually going to be talking about maker's marks, right? Like, that's going to be a big part of her discussion.
Yes.
Is kind of how those were used. You had mentioned them when we were in your house.
Oh, so I'll show you. You can look at Virgin.
Show us yours.
So with wood type, the maker's mark is usually on one of the sides. There's one manufacturer that put them on the bottom. And
So there it's a nice V.
yeah, for Virgin.
Yep.
So a lot of times they have a lot more letters and words, but we went sort of simple with our maker's mark.
And you've got an eye for that, like on your Instagram, like a lot of the type that you've been helping us identify from that new collection that we got at the center, a lot of it was just being able to recognize the maker's marks. Like, is there like some sort of guide to?
Well,
or
the maker's mark, you know, of course, this is on the Interrobang. Now, this one hasn't gotten them yet. Maker's mark. Now, of course, all of this doesn't have maker's mark on it. Maker's mark is on the cap A traditionally in the wood type making world, but not all the wood type makers, or not all the fonts have the maker's mark. So I don't know whether there were certain smaller wood type manufacturers that didn't use maker's marks, or whether just, you know, they got out the door without their maker's mark. But identifying wood type is an art all in itself. And so, you know, it's collecting and knowing where to look at different catalogs and, you know, and identifying the face. So I went through and identified all of the newly acquired Stan Harris collection, but just generally. And now Jim is going through and, you know, identifying everything specifically. You know, so I was just saying, you know, particularly if it didn't have a maker's mark, I was just saying, well, it's all Dean. You know, but he's going and figuring out by looking at all the different catalogs. Oh, it's Morgans and Wilcox Aldine, or it's American Wood Types Aldine, or it's Hamilton's. So he's getting into the nitty gritty of it. So we will have everything with its provenance. And you know, it's a tough thing because in the catalogs you only get about 5 or 7 letters. So sometimes, and if they don't give you the good identifying letters, it's can be a very difficult task to identify wood type. But we love it, and we, you know, with our new wood type that we've acquired at the Genesee Center, we've started a project. So we've been going through and cleaning it all, and it's looking so happy and beautiful. It's in its drawers. And it's all been gotten all that moisture put into it and gotten all clean, and just look very happy.
And soon, you know, if you sign up for a class at Genesee Center or one of our workshops in letterpress, like you'll be able to actually use that type. Like that'll eventually you'll be able to use that. So that'll be really nice and unique because it's, I mean, a lot of local print shops, they, you know, our collection certainly. Right, in terms of like what types are
well, we
accessible.
have a really amazingly unique wood type collection because most of the time you go to most shops and most of the wood type is Gothics, and 2 of the collections, because we acquired a collection from a man named William Morrison, and he was in Upstate New York, and he had a letterpress studio, or a letterpress shop in the family from 1840 till 5 years ago. And so that has all this collection of wood type that was bought from 1840 to, you know, whatever point.
Right.
And but the person seemed to not like Gothics. So the only Gothic that came with that collection of wood type was Gothic round. And everything else was, you know, more unique faces, you know, like the Tuscans, or, you know, there's a lot of Aldines, there's a lot of, you know, the antique extended like we're making, and the Romans, and the Clarendons, you know, the full gamut. There was even a black letter in that collection, which is beautiful. So that it's really, and I think, what is it, William Page Ornate number 1, I think. And there's just amazing collection. And then Stan Harris was the same way, though. We got about 15 fonts of Gothic from Stan Harris's collection, but it was 70 fonts not Gothic. So, you know, again, a uniqueness in the center's collection because we have so many Tuscans and Aldines and Clarendons and it just goes on and on because you
Yeah.
get into the, the names of faces, they go crazy. But that's what we have to work with, and it's kind of thrilling. So that is why when I made this wood type poster, I had to go into the collections phase because it was like, throw some of the wild fun stuff here because that's what, it's part of what makes you love wood type is the craziness of letter forms that went on in the Victorian era of typeface development.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So if no one has any other questions, we'll wrap this up. Thanks so much for joining us on this lunch hour today. And again, if you want any information about the Ways Goose, or if you're interested in a letterpress class at the center, just visit our website, rochesterarts.org. If you want to see the full collection that's available for sale from Virgin Wood Type, she also has a blog on her site as well. It's virginwoodtype.com. And again, be sure to follow her on Instagram because she's always posting projects she's working on. And the username there is Virgin Wood Type as well. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks, Geri, for giving us a tour. Hopefully, we'll see everyone at the Ways Goose on June 4th.
Great.
Right. Bye, guys.
Bye.